Everyone, this week we're going to be playing some more Legacy. Last week we tried out the Shardless deck and it went okay. Not super great or anything. The matchups were a little bit weird, but that's kind of what you're going to get with the Magic Online metagame. It's definitely got its own little thing going on, and I think it's mostly just like there aren't enough actual players to get a wide variety of decks. So like this daily I think had 20-ish people when I signed up, and right now there's this thing going around where there's like this Grixis, Delver, Young Pyromancer deck, and they have a bunch of Gurmag Anglers and stuff like that, and it's like I don't know if that deck's actually good or not, but it certainly 3-1s a decent amount of the time and occasionally 4-0s, so people seem to have been hopping on that deck, and I think it's just relatively cheap, so that might be part of the reason too. But basically what I'm getting at is that Magic Online is weird. So, don't put too much stock in your Magic Online results, especially in Legacy. But the Shardless deck did not seem great against the Magic Online decks, and now I want to try the old Delver Secrets deck. So this is kind of a mashup of Rich Shay's and Jim Davis's decks. Rich's deck was pre-Treasure Cruise, and Jim's deck was post-Cruise, but with Dig Through Time. So Jim's deck had Dark Confidant and Stifle, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize to Bob Maher here for using this one, but, bots buy it back for more. So in case I ever want to sell it, that's my excuse. Plus it matches like my Tarmogoyfs. Those are Modern Masters also, and my Vendilion Clicks. So gotta keep it consistent whenever possible, But anyway, so Jim had Dark Confidant on Stifle. I'm not a huge Stifle fan in a deck like this, because I would much rather have my Sultai deck be able to play longer games, and when you have Stifle in your deck, your ability to do that kind of diminishes, and Stifle kind of pigeonholes you into playing this like land destruction game, and I don't necessarily want to have to play that game every single time. So I really liked what Rich's deck was doing, where he had a lot of Hymn to Torox. I only have 2. I could definitely see a third, but basically I wanted some extra removal spells because of all these Gurmag Anglers. But Rich's deck also had 2 Lilianas and a Jace, which I really like, and I even have another Jace in the board. And that's basically to give you a decent late game against things like Miracles. And I was doing a similar thing in the Shardless deck. So I think that will carry over quite well. And Dark Confidant might be good right now. It feels like a lot of these decks are just kind of doing their own thing. Not a lot of decks are just, these baseline attack you decks. So your life total is not under too much pressure. And I think Confidant could actually be pretty good again. So I'm going to try that one. We'll see if that's a little bit better than the Shardless Agent Ancestral package I had in the other deck. And basically what you're trying to do with these colors is sideboard in such a way that you have a good matchup post-board. And I think that no matter which way you choose, Delver or Shardless Agent, you should be able to do that. So this is my rough draft, effectively, of this deck, and hopefully, it's close enough, and we'll tweak and tune as we go and stuff. So 8 cantrips, pretty good with Delver. I have 6 total removal spells. One of them is Dismember for killing bigger things like Tarmogoyf and Gurmag Angler. I think that's actually a pretty big one. I have 3 Days and 3 Force Will. You could certainly play 4 of each of those. And then normal Delver decks normally have something like Spell Snare, Spell Pierce as their secondary counterspell method, or like hard counterspell. And this deck, like, since it has things like Abrupt Decay, Planeswalkers, and Hymn to Torok, I think you'd much rather just have the discard instead of the soft counterspells, just because for the most part you're more willing, or you're more in the market for like a quick 2-for-1 rather than like this thing that can like maybe stop their counterbalance. So like you have answers to things that resolve, therefore you do not need to counter every single thing. So I think the discard is stronger in that regard, especially if post-board we're playing longer games. So that's about it. The numbers are a little wonky. Like I said, 3 Days, 3 Force of Will, 2 Hymns. Like, those could certainly, be plus or minus in any direction. I think we have 20 blue cards. I have 19. Oh, I cut the 4th Force of Will. That's what it was. So yeah, we have 19 blue cards, which is not bad. And then I have 20 lands, 4 wastelands, 6 fetchable lands, and I think most people went between 6 and 7, and I think 6 is probably good enough. I generally err on the side of having extra fetches in my Deathrite Shaman decks. So, you're playing Delver, you have some Dazes, Wastelands are generally pretty good, and it makes it so your Dark Confidants, when they're serving you up extra lands, you actually have something to do with them, which is pretty nice. And then the sideboard is just kind of all over the place. I took a bunch of different things from different lists, so we have some Golgari Charms for things like Young Pyromancer and Elves, Null Rod Pithing Needle for mostly Sensei's Divining Top, but Needle is also good against Vile. Null Rod is okay against Vile, but it's also very slow, but Null Rod is good against Storm. And then Cage is also good against Elves and some of the other graveyard decks in the format. And then we have some Nile Spellbombs for additional graveyard hate, and I like Nile Spellbomb against basically anyone who is delving. I'm not sure if I'm going to have the deck space to be able to bring in Nile Spellbomb against like every single person that shows me Dig Through Time, Snapcaster Mage, or whatever, but I'm kind of worried about these Gurmag Anglers, like I was saying. So, in addition to the Dismember, I have some Spellbombs. I have a Go for the Throat, which is an oldie but a goodie. And then an additional Hymn. No copies of Thoughtseize because it feels like too small ball to me. I would much rather just Hymn 2 cards out of the combo deck's hands than just Thoughtseize a single card. So, I think Hymn is the more powerful option. Another copy of Disfigure, which is effectively our Lightning Bolt, and I like that. I like having some number of these, but a lot of the decks that you want Disfigure against have things like True Name Nemesis, Gurmag Angler, Tarmogoyf, or whatever, so you can't just Disfigure every single thing they play. So you do need a mix. Unfortunately, you can't just max on Disfigure and call it a day. You do need some bigger removal spells as well. A couple copies of Flusterstorm for combo decks. Have an Arcane Laboratory also for combo decks, and I talked about this last week where I think it's really good against the Omnitel decks that are out there. And then a Vendilion Click, which is just a general all-purpose threat / anti-combo card that a lot of people play, and I haven't actually played with in a while, so I wanted to try it again. And then a second copy of Jace for any matchup that goes long. So that's basically it. Overall deck is relatively simple, especially when compared to something like the Shardless deck, but that's okay. Simple is often very good.